Welcome back to the Sports News Analysis YouTube page. We're continuing our Week 14 NFL previews and predictions. I'm previewing every game this week. If you're looking for a different game or want some opinion and analysis on a different game, you can find it on my YouTube channel here. We're up now to Philadelphia, traveling to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. Both teams coming off losses last week. The Eagles losing last week to the division rival Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football, 38-33. A game where they actually didn't play that bad, but in the end, couldn't hold off the Cowboys. Tampa comes into this game with a record of 6-6, with their playoff hopes now kind of flickering, given their 31-23 loss last week to the Broncos. Philadelphia first. They've been at the top of the headlines now consistently all season. We think you'll begin to hear a little bit less about them the last 4 weeks of the season, just given the fact that, for all intents and purposes, they're completely out of it now. It's sort of been a foregone conclusion that everyone thinks Andy Reid's going to get fired. But if you look at the moves he's made in the last month or so, and I'll go through 3 of them real quick with you, it makes me think that maybe he won't be fired, because I don't know if the management would let him make these decisions if he was going to be fired. First, the firing of Juan Castillo. Juan Castillo is a longtime friend of Andy Reid's, so that had to be especially tough on him. He was the first domino to fall. Then, supposedly, in the parking lot, after they returned home from Dallas last week, he fired his defensive line coach, Jim Washburn, in the parking lot. So, if you need any more evidence that the wide nine is completely gone, they got rid of Babin, they got rid of the defensive coordinator, and they got rid of the defensive line coach. So the wide nine is no more in Philadelphia. Also, you look at the naming of Nick Foles as the starter for the rest of the season, no matter what. Andy Reid came out and made that announcement. Even if Michael Vick does get healthy and is fit to play, Andy Reid has made the decision that Nick Foles will be his quarterback for the remainder of the season. Again, a move that you think would come from a coach that's going to be there a while, so that'll be an interesting situation to monitor. As far as this game goes, if you're a fantasy football player and you picked up Bryce Brown maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago on the waiver wire, or maybe you had him as a handcuff to Shady McCoy, whatever the situation is, he's paying dividends for you, and he's probably in your starting lineup this week as you head into your fantasy playoffs, so good luck with that. We like what we see. I like what I see from Nick Foles, though, from a regular football point of view. He's improved. He played a lot better last week than he did in his first start against the Dallas defense that we know is not great, but they're by no means bottom feeders. So we like what we saw from Nick Foles heading into this game. It's worth watching to see if he can improve at the last month of the season, with him knowing that, hey, if he comes out, he plays solid, maybe he has a starting NFL job next year, which will be another of these rookie quarterbacks that comes in and does the job. Something to look out for. Now with Tampa, they're 6-6, coming off a loss last week to the Broncos. Their playoff chances are fleeting at this time. They sit behind the Falcons in their division. Okay, so and in the wild card situation, they're one of those 6-6 teams along there with Washington, and also with Dallas at 6-6. They're behind, 1 game behind the Seahawks for that wild card spot. Tampa's only shot at making the playoffs is securing one of those wild card spots, as Atlanta's long since run away with that division and actually clinched the division. Tampa, in the last couple weeks, they've struggled. I think a large part of that is due to the lack of production from Doug Martin. Only about 105 yards in his last 2 games total, which obviously is a departure from earlier in the season where he was a force. His lack of production, is that because of him hitting a little bit of a wall? Is it because defenses are now preparing for him and he's not going to sneak up on anyone? Whatever the case is, he probably needs to play a little bit better for them to have the success that they had earlier in the season. Tampa's a unique team. They're a team that went out and made a lot of free agent moves in the offseason, spent a lot of money. They brought in a coach from college, first-time NFL head coach. They had a young quarterback coming off a rough season last year. And we think because of all those reasons, we're even more impressed with what Tampa has done this year. I mean, how many times do you see a coach from college come in and not work out like Schiano has? How many times have you seen a team go out and spend a lot of money in free agency like the Eagles did last year, and those players come in and can't mesh, don't respect the coach, and you have a situation like you do in Philadelphia? So, the Vincent Jacksons of the world, the Donald Penns of the world, the way they've kind of come together and played well for Schiano, we think is a testament to Schiano. We think they have the building blocks going forward to have a solid team. They're probably just 1 year away, a little too inconsistent this year to be a formidable playoff team. This, as far as the spread in this game goes, Tampa Bay is -7, so Tampa Bay is giving a touchdown to Philadelphia. We like Tampa to win the game outright, but I like Philadelphia to keep the game close enough. I look for Nick Foles to improve even more this week, and even more throughout the last 3 games of the season, but especially this game. I think he'll give Tampa secondary all they can handle. I do think Tampa wins, but I think Philly covers, so we'll go with Philly +7 on the road here in Tampa in Week 14. And again, check us out on Twitter at SNewsAnalysis. That's at SNewsAnalysis as well. We're always on there, throwing out little tidbits of information, interacting with our followers. So we'll look forward to seeing you on there. And have a nice night.